Black and White, Populous, and Spore. There was a time when God games ruled from the skies, but those days are long gone. Or are they? Today I'm going to show you all the God games I think might stand a chance in a new pantheon of life sim gaming, but will any of them come close to the supernatural powers that came before? Let's find out, and welcome to what 2024 has in its grand design. In the beginning, we have Reus 2. Shape humanity with the power of the gods in Reus 2. Choose your giants, combine natural elements, and manipulate fate to guide the path of civilization. The choices are yours, and so are the consequences. This game puts you in control of mighty giants that shape the planet for humans to live, grow, and wage war on. Your choices will explore the fate of humanity across the cosmos of your creation, experimenting with civilization and seeing what human tribes will achieve with the right combination of elements. You get to plan and discover strategic synergies and watch humanity evolve and learn as it reaches for the stars, all while you're controlling giants, experimenting with natural resources, and leave a lasting legacy. This game is about sort of coming up with your own goals, as many God games are. The objectives are whatever you design them to be, and you get to see how the simulation plays out based on the choices you make. The original Reus did go down pretty well, so a lot of people are looking forward to this sequel. And even if you're not into the whole cartoony look of this game, it might be an interesting check out. There's no current release window for Reus 2, but we should be seeing a lot more of it over the next year. Continuing to watch over a civilization, it's Microcivilization. This one is calling itself an incremental clicker strategy, but this is where you expand, construct, research, fight, collect heroes, and make choices between good and evil. You ascend through difficulty tiers by playing through the challenge campaign, going back and forth through history. So this is sort of combining 4X strategy with clicking on things, and you'll witness the rise and fall of civilizations. You could guide your civilization to become obscenely rich and powerful, and maybe fall to the hundreds of disasters, wars, disease, social unrest, invasions, and so much more. You'll have to take risks, and maybe you will prevail, and eventually ascend to the stars. So the unique thing here, first of all, is just the way this game looks. It's a pixel art game, but it's really nice, and it sort of has this muted aesthetic, which lends itself to perhaps the bleakness of the constant falls of civilization. Now, the full release window for this game is supposed to be sometime in 2024, but it'll be going into early access by the end of 2023, and at the time of recording, there is a free demo on Steam for you to try out. So there's no secret to what Microcivilization is or what it's going to be. You can have a look at the game's demo and then see if you want to follow it until its full release in 2024. Now, we all miss Spore, so how about Elysian Eclipse? This is a sandbox evolution simulator which lets you evolve from an amoeba into a space-traveling sentient being. You create your own creatures, buildings, and vehicles to conquer procedural planets and turn the galaxy into your personal playground. This sounds like an intended spiritual successor for Spore, for sure. But Spore is such a huge thing to live up to. Even though Spore itself sort of didn't exactly end up what it was supposed to be, the expectations to surpass Spore with a new game are immense. This one brings you through all the expected phases: cell, aquatic, creature, tribal, medieval, civilization, and finally the space stage. So it's all supposed to be there, but this is going to be a long-term project. It is meant to be going into early access at some point, likely over the next year-ish, but the final release window is supposed to be 2027, so this is going to be one of those independent games which may or may not turn out to be absolutely amazing, but it should become playable soon, and then we'll see how it goes over the following years. If it hits the ground running, this could be something very special, but it might just fall flat as well. But, we'll see how it goes for Elysian Eclipse. In a similar vein, but focusing down onto a smaller set of phases, Adapt. To survive, you must guide your species through a constantly changing world, compete with strange creatures for food and territory, and find your niche through careful evolutionary choices. The real question is not if you can survive, but for how long. So it is saying, pretty much as natural selection goes, every species comes to an end, unless I guess you're a shark. So Adapt is a survival evolution game. With a constantly changing environment, you are meant to create your creature and iterate on its design, and try to survive and thrive in the ecosystem. With the numerous adaptations, you're supposed to have diverse playstyles, and plant life will exhibit seasonal behaviors and growth. So you don't get seeds and fruits all seasons, which is gonna make things kinda complicated for you to survive. You can hunt or be hunted, and overall this seems like a nice creature designer's survival kind of simulation. So although this is not the entire spectrum of Spore's phases from, the amoeba into space, this does sort of focus on the creature aspect, and I think that actually kinda taps into what a lot of people are looking for. A lot of people played Spore, and they just preferred the single cell phase up until the creature phase and maybe the tribal phase, but a lot of people sort of didn't like it when it went into the civilization and space phase, so maybe Adapt is sort of going into the more appropriate direction and focusing on what people loved most about Spore and leaving out the rest. Having said that, this does have a sort of a more cartoony look, which may or may not appeal to you. But I think if you don't like it, and you can just ignore the visual style for now, this might be something very interesting. At the time of recording, there isn't too much to say about it, because we've only seen so much, and there's no particular release window, it's just coming soon, though I do expect we will see a lot more of Adapt moving forward. Hey, now that you're a bit into the list, I'm sure you're enjoying it, so it would be greatly appreciated if you can like the video. Alright, next game. Thrive. We are continuing the Spore theme, and this one is an evolution simulation game. You take control of your species in the environment and edit your species as a whole. Compete with other evolving species for resources on an alien planet. Through this game, you will be controlling an individual member of your species as you hunt and be hunted and scavenge for resources. You get to edit your species to make it more successful over time. You explore different biomes, fight other cells and multicellular beings. You learn about biology by using real compounds. So this is an evolution game where it's sort of backed up by actual science, and you spread your species across the planet via the biomap. So for the Spore spiritual successors, this one is kind of leaning more to the scientific approach to natural selection and evolution. Now, this one has had some time to prove itself. It's been in early access since the end of 2021, so it's been a couple years playable at this point, and it's been getting regular-ish updates over the years, and at the time of recording, it's received a good few hundred user reviews on Steam with 90+% positive. So overall, people are liking this one, but it is sort of taking its time through early access. I mean, in the approximately how long will this game be in early access, the developer actually says it could take up to 150 months. We're talking a 12-year development cycle. So hey, just another decade to go for Thrive to fully release, but it's playable now, so you can look it up, you can see what it is, and it's not exactly an expensive game. It's an indie development, so that's why it's taking a long time, and it's not the only indie development to take 10 years to finally reach 1.0 release. So if you're intrigued about Thrive, you can look it up, see if you want to jump in now, or you could just check back at any point in the future and see how it's doing. And then we have the Sapling. This is a short simulation game where you design your own plants and animals, and you put them in a world together and see how the simulation plays out. You could also turn on random mutations and see what evolution does to your ecosystem. So this is a Spore-like game where you're more in control of the entire environment, but also you can sort of let the game do what it wants and let random mutations and natural selection kind of figure out what it's gonna do. So you could let the simulation run and find yourself with very interesting and different scenarios. This one also allows you to design algae and plants, so it's not just the animals and creatures you're designing here, and I think this is the only game that sort of allows you to do that, where you can design the plants and really have full control over the entire ecosystem. But also, you know, this is more of an indie development, so it has been in early access for a while now, since the end of 2019. So it's been multiple years that this has been in early access, so it's not exactly a new game, but I wanted to tell you about it in this list anyway because, you know, we're looking at spiritual successors to God games and stuff like that, so the Sapling is one of them. Having been in early access for that long, it's received multiple hundreds of user reviews on Steam with 90% plus positive, so people are also enjoying this one. Though there is no particular release window or estimate for how long this game will be in early access, so it's just gonna be another one of those indie ongoing developments, which may be interesting for you to keep an eye on. Okay, then I want to mention one more Spore-ish like game called CreatureSim. This one is very indie. It's not even on Steam or anything. There's just an own independent kind of website thing, and it's sort of like a Spore-ish kind of game. But you know, this is very indie, very few updates coming for this game, but it does look kinda interesting, and maybe one day CreatureSim will turn out to be something kind of interesting. I just want to put it on your radar, but I also want to say that you don't have to keep too close an eye on this one because it's under development for a long time, and it may or may not release. It might just end at some point or go silent forever, but it is a game out there that I want to mention because it is a Spore spiritual successor by another indie developer. But, you know, that's about it for CreatureSim. So let's move on to another kind of God game. Alright, I can't believe I'm still talking about this as an upcoming game. It is the Universim. This is a civilization simulation god game, where you jump straight into managing your own planets as you guide a civilization through the ages. You build the ultimate empire in this new breed of god game development. So this game has been going for a long time. I've talked about it multiple times before. It's been in early access since 2018, and we've been talking about it since even before then. And it had a rough start. It was very bare bones at the start of early access, and there were a lot of things that were just not quite there. I actually have some videos on the Universim. Over the years, this has begun to develop into something very big and quite well liked. It's received thousands of user reviews on Steam, with 80+% positive, so that's still relatively good. And I do know Steam user reviews aren't a perfect indicator for how good or bad a game is, but it's an indicator. And in this game, you are a god, guiding a species and sort of not really direct control, but also kind of have quite a bit of direct control, but you sort of guide your civilization along its path. And it has sort of that slight good and evil approach as you go through the ages from the ancient Stone Age into the future Space Age. Because this has been in early access for so long, there's a lot of information about the Universim, and I don't think I have to spend too much talking about it. However, it's getting to a point where maybe we could see a full release, maybe-ish. There's a lot of things that are actually already implemented, and they say they are focused on reaching the version 1.0 full game release. So if they stick to it, we could actually see the Universim fully release in 2024, and I can stop talking about it. And if you've been waiting for full release, well, I think it might actually be finally a good finished game for you to jump into. Now, going a bit different, it's a bit hard for me to classify this game. It's called These Doomed Isles. You harvest cards to raise land from the sea, and you build settlements and rain fire upon invaders in a survival city builder-ish with rogue-like deck building mechanics as you choose from 3 gods with 3 different playstyles, and you lead your civilization to victory in a strategic run-based game. Is this a god game? Is it a city builder? Is it a card game? Is it I just don't really know how to classify this, but it kind of feels like it fits into this list the best, so I'm gonna tell you about it here. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of elements to this, but essentially you are the god guiding this civilization. So this makes it a god game in my eyes, and it just entered early access on Steam to mostly positive reviews, but it's early days and they say it's meant to be in early access for about a year, so it is building up to a full release in 2024. So, if you're intrigued with These Doomed Isles, I would recommend you have a look at it. If anything, it's just kind of different in the genre, and might have some interesting ideas. So you can go check out These Doomed Isles, or we can move on to the next game. So next I want to talk about Doodle God Universe. This one's also kind of a weird one. You have 4 basic elements: an empty planet and plenty of time. Not that that's enough to create the universe, but you'll be using your intelligence and imagination as you combine air, water, fire, and earth to create hundreds of new elements to make your planet come alive. This is sort of a proper, more 3D version of that game where you combine elements. I forgot what it's called, but you combine those elements and you try and find all the different combinations to sort of figure out it as a puzzle game. But this time, this is more of a kind of a God evolution game-ish kind of thing. I mean, it looks kind of interesting. It looks really weird at times. And it says eventually you'll end up with over 400 unique elements and 700 plus unique reactions for you to experiment with and explore as you build up this planet and it progresses into developing all kinds of things. It's a weird one. Now, officially, right now, at the time of recording, it is saying that this is going to have a 2023 release window, but there's no specific date right now, and we are approaching the end of the year. So this might release towards the end of 2023, but I'll count it as a 2024 game anyway, because we'll do most of the playing in 2024. Also, there is a free demo, so as with many of these weird games, it's very good that they have a free demo because it's hard to explain exactly what it is. And also, if you're not too sure if it's a game for you, you can just try the free demo and see if you like it. So go ahead and check out Doodle God Universe if you're confused. With more evolution, but more on the environment, it's Ecosystem. Grow and modify an ecosystem with simulated evolution by natural selection, creating the life forms that inhabit it. All the creatures that you see in the footage you're seeing right now supposedly evolved on their own in-game. None of them were hand-edited, so that means that this is really sort of focusing on the evolution simulation, natural selection kind of process, where you could get some very crazy things that eventually turn out to be very successful creatures, because the non-successful creatures would just die out. So the creatures here have a kind of synthetic DNA system, and it's all simulated, including the creature's brains and nervous systems and DNA and all of that. Even the muscles and how the creatures physically move around are bound by the laws of physics. So this is very interesting in terms of a god game where you can kind of just watch what the simulation comes up with, and you could end up with very cool or just very bizarre things. It sounds like it could be a cool time. Now, this game has been in early access since 2021, with a few hundred very positive reviews so far on Steam. So it's been a while and it's not super popular, but it was supposed to be in early access for about a year and a half. So we're kind of past that date right now. But it should mean that it's getting closer and closer to becoming more complete. But it also means you can jump in right now if you just want to mess around with this ecosystem. This sort of feels more like a simulation rather than a game sim game. But yeah, it's interesting. And then for a game that is already a massive success, WorldBox God Simulator. This is supposed to be the ultimate god simulator and sandbox game. A petri dish for your fantasy civilizations where you can create your own world or destroy it using powers, and you can watch civilizations grow, form kingdoms, colonize new lands, sail to far continents, go to war, and see empires rise and fall. All while you're just watching from the sky and maybe pulling a few strings. So it is a god simulator, so you have a bunch of powers in your toolkit. It's a living world, so everything is simulated in terms of growth and expansion. Also, this is a fantasy game, so the civilizations you're watching are humans, orcs, elves, and dwarves, each with their own traits. They have a diplomacy system, so they will actually interact with each other. And there's a lot of procedural generation to keep things looking natural. Now, this game has been in early access since the end of 2021, so it's been a couple years, but it's received tens of thousands of user reviews on Steam at 95% positive. Like, this game is a massive success already, and it's been going very, very well. Now, it does say it's supposed to be in early access for 2 years, which means the end of 2023 is the original release window for a full 1.0 release, but it might go a little bit longer than that, if not a lot longer than that, but you know, it's already a success. So this is one of those early access games where you don't really have to wait for full release. It's already something that is very popular, very well liked, and quite well developed. So you can jump in now. But if it sticks roughly to its release window, it should fully release sometime in 2024, but you can never guess these things, so I don't think you have to wait for full release if you want to jump into WorldBox God Simulator. And then for the game most inspired by black and white, Fata Deum. This game lets you mold your settlements and townsfolk in your image. You could raise settlements to splendor or spur them into violent debauchery and demons, as there is an alignment system between good and evil. Much like the old black and white, that's always fun. And your people exist in a living world that grows under your whims. You can be good or very bad, as you manage your mana to manipulate your settlement's devotees, and you can amass power, giving you bigger and better abilities. You can lead your people to conquer your rivals, or you could convince other people to join you, and you can frighten or foster your own people, as you shape a living world and experience your story as a god. So this one, of course, is very, very exciting, but it sort of had a rough-ish start. There was a demo a while ago, but it was very laggy for me, and it didn't really feel all that great. It has been a while since then, and it's been picked up by a publisher, so there is a lot of development going on for Fata Deum right now. So it seems to be turning out to be a lot better than the demo that I tried before this. So it's still very exciting to watch, and it's currently scheduled to release sometime in 2024, which is when we may get something that sort of lives up to the old black and white. Black and white, it's such a fascinating game. Black and White 1, of course, better than Black and White 2, but still, that sort of gameplay has not really been in existence for many years. And Fata Deum is our best bet for a spiritual successor to Black and White right now, and I hope it turns out to be something good. I really hope it does. But all we can do is see how Fata Deum turns out when it releases in 2024. There you have it. Press the like button and get games using the GOG referral link below to support videos like this one. Thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members who really support this channel and for keeping videos like these being made. Join if you want your name on future videos. If you want to stay in the know for another genre, go to the next list video linked on screen, as I'm sure god gamers like yourself would not want to miss all the tycoon and life sim games in the other lists. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.